Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny. The January 30th update is just around the corner, and with it come a lot of really great improvements to your endgame pursuits, including Masterworks armor and a complete rework of the raid reward system. With it comes new mods, perks, and even a new exotic. Ooh, shiny. We also have the Season 2 debut of Iron Banner coming next week with new weapons, ornaments, and a much improved reward system there. Of course, the big question remains that with all of these improvements, is it enough to bring back players into the game? Lots to cover, so let's get into it. Alright, so let's kick things off with some news about the return of Iron Banner. This time it is Control, and we have a few new weapons to look forward to. We have this hand cannon from Haka, we have the scout rifle from Weist, and a shotgun from Suros. And I am very pleased to report that Bungie has heard our feedback about the faction rally loud and clear, and these weapons will all be available to receive from reward engrams for turning in tokens to Lord Saladin. Some nice additions to that reward package are going to include the Sparrow, the Ghost, and something not pictured and very cheekily teased at is an Iron Banner ship. So I'll be very curious to see what that looks like for them to feel like they need to keep it as a surprise. Of course, this Iron Banner are going to feature a couple really great new features, like the ability to directly purchase items from Lord Saladin. I suspect that these will work just like they do with the current factions, with more armor unlocking every time you claim a subsequent reward package. Also, another very welcome addition is the ability to purchase those featured weapons that we just looked at directly from Lord Saladin. I expect these to be rewards at rank 3, 4, and 5. Not only that, but remember, we're going to have a chance to receive Iron Banner items at the end of the Crucible matches, so the tokens are not going to be the only way to acquire them. Also, another thing worth mentioning is that this is the first time that we're going to finally be able to acquire those Season 2 ornaments. I really dig how much these change things up, and I'm very much looking forward to getting a good set. Next up, we have a bit more information about Masterworks armor that is coming with the January 30th update. Before, we knew they were going to be reducing incoming damage while you're in your super, and now we know exactly by how much. It turns out that every piece of armor that you have as Masterwork will reduce that damage by 3%, and that will total to 15% with all 5 pieces of armor as Masterworks. And of course, here we have a good example of what it's going to look like to re-roll the stats. You can see here that they re-roll it and the stats do change quite a bit. And I know I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but I really hope that you can completely roll out of mobility with the Hunter. I know there's some weird limitations with the weapons Masterwork system, so I'm really hoping that there's no limitations in that department. But the good news is that it does seem to take fewer materials to assign or re-roll Masterworks with armor. 5 Masterwork cores will turn a piece of armor into a Masterwork, and then to re-roll the stats you only need 1. So that is a very nice concession for armor, since you do have 5 pieces to roll for each set. Next up, we have the much needed improvements to raid rewards with the raid reward renewal. So the first new feature they're talking about is raid armor with raid perks. You can see here that we have some brand new mods that add very specific new features to your armor pieces. They went over some of their goals with these new perks. As you remember, in Destiny 1 we had very mechanic-specific perks that were with the armor pieces. This time they're going for more broad perks that can be used in any situation, which I kind of prefer, especially with how powerful some of these sound like they are. They gave a couple examples, like recharging your grenade when you activate your super. That's pretty cool. And then we have deal 20% extra damage after getting a melee kill. So these are clearly the perks for some of the other armor pieces, but as a whole, they're designed to make you feel a lot more powerful during the raid. Now, the way they work, as shown in the example here, is that when you hover over your mods, they're just going to be sitting there. These aren't mods that are in your inventory, but are there sort of already part of your armor, and then you can switch in and out of them. The good news is that when you switch to one of these, it doesn't consume it or it doesn't take it out of your inventory. You can actually switch in and out of these very quickly, and so these mods are going to be reusable, but if you do have an old mod there in its place, that will definitely be dismantled if you replace it with one of these, so just keep that in mind. The other really neat thing is that they are automatically legendary mods, which adds that 5 extra power in case you're still trying to hit that power cap, which kind of gives me a really nice Destiny 1 vibe back in the days of vanilla, where the only way to hit the level cap was by getting the raid armor. So if you're still trying to hit that power cap, it'll be nice to know that these come with that +5 built in. Next up, we have another welcome addition back from D1, which is that clearing Prestige mode raid will now give you Prestige and normal drops. So essentially, you'll be getting 2 drops from every encounter on Prestige, which kind of leads us right to the next new feature, which is that all raid encounters will always drop a raid piece. And not only that, but every single one of those chests will have a chance of dropping an exotic. Not an engram, mind you, but a straight up exotic, just like it was in Destiny 1. Now, if that wasn't enough to round out your raid collections, good old Benedict will be selling a stock of items available from both the normal and prestige mode raids. The only caveat being that if you want to buy a piece of armor from Benedict that's from the prestige mode raid, you do have to have had cleared the prestige mode raid that week. This is of course to stop people from getting prestige rewards without having completed the prestige raid. Now moving on, we have a really cool addition coming with a January 30th update, and that is a brand new exotic ghost. It's called Contender Shell, and it can drop from any of the final encounters from either Leviathan or Eater of Worlds. Not only does this look pretty sweet, but it actually has some really interesting perks, and I love that these are raid specific. So first up, we have Seeker of Brilliance, that enables a chance of getting a bright engram from any of the loot pools. So you have a chance of getting a bright engram every time you complete an encounter, and if you go buy an encounter and you don't get a bright engram, it actually increases your chance of getting one from the next encounter, similar to 3 of Coins. I have to say that's actually pretty smart. The second perk is Seeker of Opulence, which means that exotics that will be dropping now from those encounters have a 50% chance of being pulled from a list of exotics that you have not collected, similar to the Fated Engram. Then we have the third and final perk, Seeker of Glory, which provides a tracker for the number of encounters you've defeated on Leviathan. So I really do have to say that I'm very impressed with the changes they're making to the raid rewards. And I genuinely cannot wait to jump back in and start earning some of these new rewards and having an actual incentive to play Prestige mode. Now, of course, with the January update being as big as it is, there's going to be some other changes as well, and we have a small preview of some of those patch notes. First up, we have a fix to the Prometheus lens. The Flame Refraction perk now generates ammo instead of pulling from reserves, and now it also has increased base damage. They've also fixed an issue where characters created after the release of Curse of Osiris were not receiving the Flashpoint milestones, and then we have players in social spaces like the Tower receive a notification when their lost and found at the Postmaster is full. Should be very useful. And then we have Heroic Strike completions now have a greater chance of granting exotic rewards. Very cool. Mercury challenges are now available during adventures. Didn't know that was not a thing. Fix an issue where Curse of Osiris strikes were not properly granting clan engrams when featured as Nightfall activity. Fix an issue where challenges were not appearing within quick play, and increase the dismantle timer for Masterwork cores, of course so you don't delete them by accident. Now, they finally wanted to sit down with us and talk about shaders. So they're working on it, and I'm going to give you kind of like the big bullet point here, and that is that it's not as easy for them to let you dismantle a large stack of shaders, because each individual shader grants you some materials in exchange for dismantling them. So for instance, if you dismantled 143 shaders all at once, you would not only receive all those rewards all at once, but if you're hitting any kind of material cap, like let's say the Glimmer cap, you would potentially miss out on a lot of materials. Even though that's only one of their sort of concerns, really, more than anything else, but they're still working at ways of letting you dismantle entire stacks. They threw out the idea of L2 plus whatever dismantle is. Funny enough, this was my solution for it way back when. But they have said they're working on some other solutions that are kind of like creative workarounds, like having a mass exchange option. You might be able to take your shaders up to one of the vendors and exchange them for another material. That might be a much better solution. Another thing that they've pointed out is that they know that we missed the D1 armor shader mechanics. They're looking at ways of reintegrating that capability without losing the ability to shade weapons, ghost ships, sparrows, or customize specific pieces of armor individually. They also stated that they are understanding that we want shaders to be more freely usable and not limited by availability. They're looking into ways to reintroducing shader collections or a way to get copies of shaders that are already in your possession. And I have to sort of agree, I'm not really annoyed by the new shader system the way it is with consumable shaders. I'm more frustrated that I run out of shaders that I really like to complete armor sets. And one final thing, they did show us a teaser for the cover of the new webcomic for the Fall of Osiris series, so that should be coming pretty soon. Anyways, as I mentioned, all of this goes live January 30th after a patch and after a few hours of downtime, so definitely keep that in mind. So my final thoughts on all of this is that it's actually all very exciting news. I like a lot of the new changes coming. I'm also very happy that they know exactly what the community is talking about, and they have plans to address them sooner than later. And so we're in course correct mode officially. We have the first update coming next week, we have a February update, and then a spring update. In my opinion, this game has a chance of bouncing back sooner than you might think, as long as the Gods of Mars content is compelling enough, and if wrapped up with all of these new changes, there might be a lot of positive word of mouth that will definitely go a long way to bounce things back a little bit. But as always, I'm very curious to see if you agree. Let's discuss. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more Destiny content. And I will see you all next time.